What is going on, y'all? I am KM Best, and people love asking me what my opinion of Ravonna Renslayer is, the newest card in Marvel Snap. Spoiler alert, not good. So this is Ravonna Renslayer, and Eagle Eye viewers may have already noticed that I haven't bought her. That's because I think she's completely terrible. But here's the upside. I think she's terrible right now in the context of the current metagame. That is not the same thing as saying I think she's always going to be terrible. She's a card that actually does look reasonably powerful. It's just the context of the current metagame makes her a bad choice for your tokens right now, especially given that she's a Series 4 card. Nobody should be opening caches for this card. So, what do I mean when I say Ravonna Renslayer's decks are not suited for the current metagame? Let's take a look at the untapped.gg stats for her best decks. I mean, first things first, two things jump out. One is that the win rate is pretty horrid. 54% is well below what the best version of the archetype should be. And while it is an early stage of the game, it is normally a little bit more promising when a card is legitimately good. But I think I want to dive just a little bit deeper than that. Because when you look at what the best performing Ravonna Renslayer decks are, they almost always end up being some sort of mid-range mush, right? Darkhawk, Mystique, the Goblins, and then you just sort of go around from there, and that sort of mid-rangey Darkhawk mush is particularly bad right now. There are other archetypes of Ravonna that you can play, though. For example, she shows up in Patriot lists, she shows up in junk decks, and perhaps most famously shows up in Mr. Negative builds as sort of a backup plan. Now, why are all of these decks not doing very well? The answer to that question is entirely down to the decks your opponent is playing. So let's group Ravonna decks into two major categories. Category number one is mid-range mush, and category number two is combo stuff, right? Right now, combo stuff has basically never been worse, even though this is the kind of meta that would call for it against Loki. It just ends up falling apart a little bit too easy. Now, then let's move on to the mid-range mush. Why is mid-range mush hard to play? There are two reasons for that. The first is Loki getting your cards and doing it better. The second is Wave. If someone is not playing Loki, it's almost a guarantee that they're going to be on a Wave deck. There is the High Evo Wave deck. There is the Move Wave deck. There is a Brood Wave deck. Every deck that exists in the sort of mid-range mush category that isn't a Loki deck is going to be playing Wave. And your whole plan as one of those mid-range mush decks is to Darkhawk and Mystique on the final turn of the game. Then you have the other decks, which are just putting Ravonna in a deck that she kind of helps. This Iron Patriot list is actually kind of a good example here. Like, she lets you do some things that are pretty cool. She's like decent with like Wolfsbane and Patriot. Like, that's not nothing, but she's not doing enough to carry her own weight there. She's probably not making the deck a lot better. So that adds us a little bit of a third category of Ravonna decks, and those are just the ones that she's in but doesn't really help. So far, we've narrowed it down to mid-range mush decks that get absolutely smushed by Loki and Wave, combo decks that are already too fragile, and you're now introducing a sort of backup enabler that isn't really good enough to win you any games, or decks where she's not actually making the deck better. So why do I think that this is a meta issue and not necessarily an indictment on her power level? Well, two things. One, it could very well be an indictment on her power level. There is a very real chance that she just isn't at the right cost. If she costs 2, maybe she'd be a lot more competitive. An additional way to get Mr. Negative out on turn 3 would obviously be much appreciated in those decks rather than her current role as backup plan. Now, that said, I do think that two things about the meta make this uniquely hard to do. The first is Wave, and the second is Loki. Loki craps on your mid-range mush plan, and then Wave craps on every deck you want to play that wants to play cards late. That includes Mr. Negative. It's not just the mid-range mush decks that want to play a bunch of cards late. Every Ravonna deck is fundamentally because you're cheating mana built on playing multiple cards on turn 6. And Wave decks turn that off. So it's not just that Loki is oppressive to mid-range decks, it's that most of the other things you want to do with this card get absolutely hosed by Wave. And if that wasn't enough, the next card coming out in Marvel Snap is Mobius M. Mobius, who entirely turns Ravonna off. Just off. Forever. Off. She does not exist. And that is so bad. Because even if you have your own Mobius, what ends up happening is she's still off. Two Mobiuses sort of cancel out, but they cancel out in the sense that no discounts can be applied. That's what two Mobiuses means. And so if your opponent plays Mobius and you play Mobius, you're still not getting the discounts. They're just protecting you from having your costs increased. Everything's going to be base cost after Mobius. And the fact that Mobius is coming out a week after Ravonna, she has shown absolutely no promise so far in this current metagame. All of that suggests to me that I would like to give this card a rating of 1 star out of 5. I would not purchase this card right now, but I do want you to understand that a lot of this is down to the other cards in the metagame, and there are possibilities for this card to be strong. Hell, I lost to Ravonna in Cerebro 3. Was that why I lost? Not really, but I did. Like, it's not god-awful unplayable. It's pretty okay. The issue is that in this metagame, stuff that's pretty okay is getting forced out. And you can't afford to be pretty okay when your opponent is playing something broken. And a lot of things are doing higher impact stuff than Ravonna Renslayer. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. I wanted to get it out there as fast as possible so people knew not to buy this card. I have 30,000 tokens and I'm still not going to buy her. I'm not about that life. If you want to buy a card like her, I think you can probably just wait till they buff her or wait till the metagame changes. But right now, I do not see her making a big impact. If you think I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments. I still read every single one of them, but I'd much prefer all of them say, wow, KM, you're so right. You're so honest with us. I can't believe people were saying this card was good. Look, that's what I want to see in the comments. They never actually show me what I want to see, but thank you so much for watching. I've been KM Best. I will see you in the next one.